Hey everyone, this is Mr. K. I'm thinking that some of the new modules coming up, like this week's, which is loops, may throw you for a loop. So I'm a dad, I do dad jokes, but anyway, they might be a little tough, mainly not because of the Python, but because of Codio and trying to understand what Codio really wants from you. So I thought I'd just kind of intro these challenges and see what can help. If it helps at all, I'd really like your feedback to know. So first thing you may notice, my colors are awesome. It's because I went to Preferences, User. And over here on the right, they have default preferences. And one of them is Editor Theme. And so I chose Blackboard. And you can't change it here on the right. But over here, you add in this line, theme equals Blackboard, and then it makes these awesome colors. So that's that. So right here, this challenge is 3.1. So what's going on with this guy? So they want you to count from 0 to n. So they pass in n, and this is something that's tripping people up a little bit. This is pulled from the command line. What do we even mean by the command line? Basically what happens, and I'll show you in a terminal real quick. And so what happens is when we run something, it's run like Python 3. This file name is 0-n, right? 0-n.py. And then they add numbers, like they add command line arguments, like maybe a 9 or a 20. And what happens is sys.argv, argv0 is the file name, and everything after that are different argument values. This one's 1, 0, 1. 1 is pulled in, and then they cast it to an int because we want n to be an int. All those command line arguments by default are strings. So we have to turn them into ints. So they're going to pass in some number, and they're going to put in n, and you need to count from 0 up to n. So there's a couple of ways to do this. My way, which I think is the easiest way, is you're going to want a for loop. So you want to do like for x in range 0 to n. And then what you're going to do is indent, and you're going to do some stuff. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm practically giving it away, but that's that. But the key thing I want to show you all here is a lot of students are like, I don't know how to do this. I never saw how to do this. This exact thing was shown to you earlier in the training. You're going to see half of it. I apologize. Right here. For x in range, but what did they do? They did 0 to 10. In your situation, you are going to want to do 0 to n. It's a variable. You don't know what it's going to be. That's what you don't know what n is going to be. It could be 0, it could be 100, whatever. And so that's just to get you started on 3.1. So let's move on to 3.2. Now for this one, they want you to go from n to 0. So you might think to yourself, I'll do the same thing I did before for, x in range 0, like n comma 0, but that doesn't quite work that way. So for this one, what you probably want to do is use a while loop, and you probably want to say while, and then you want to do something with n. My recommendation is while n is, I don't know, greater than or equal to something. And what you're going to want to do inside the while loop, okay, maybe 0, is inside the while loop again, indented, so all the indented stuff is inside the while loop. You're going to want to do something to n. You need n to get closer to 0. That's my hint there. So let's move on. All right, this one's 3.3. So in this one, it says it's called n20 or negative n20. So this is the key. They're going to put an n. They're going to give you an n, but you got to decide what to do. If I hear decide, I hear if. So you're probably going to want to do something like if n is less than 0, meaning it is negative, then you're going to want to do some stuff. Else, and you really don't need to do else if or elif. You can just do else, because if n isn't less than 0, it's going to be, well, it could be 0, but it's going to be greater than 0. But either way, that's what you're going to do. So if n is less than 0, do negative n20. And if n is not less than 0, you're going to want to do n20. So what they want is if it's negative n, okay, then what you're going to want to do is print, right, all values from negative n up to 0. So like, let's say n is 9, or no, that's not, if n was 5. Sorry, everyone. Negative 5, right, because it's less than 0. Then they're going to want you to print from n up to n excluding 0. So basically, they want to see negative 5, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, and 0. Okay, up to and, oh, excluding 0, so we don't have 0. And understand they want them on separate lines. Okay, this is basically the type of output they want. Here, let's say n was 5. And again, don't set n equal to 5. They have n right here. You're not going to touch n. You don't change it. There they want 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, excluding 0. So they don't want you to print out 0. Okay? So you're going to look at this. To go from negative 5 to negative 4, we're going to be adding 1 each time. And to go from 5 to 4 to 3 to 2, they're going to be subtracting 1 each time. So however you want to do that, that's how you do it, but that's just my hint there. All right, utility variables. It's explaining for loops, and now we're on to another set of challenges. So 6.1. This one is times tables. So they're going to, again, they say we're going to provide you with a number n. This is this n. You don't know what it is, it's just passing it in, right? So they're going to provide you with an n. They want you to output the times table for that number from 1 to 12. What do they mean? That means, in their example, they pass in a 6, but I'm going to pass in a 4. If n happens to be 4, again, you don't know what they're going to pass in. They want you to print out 4 times 1, right? They want you to print out 4. And then they also want you to print out 4 times 2, 4 times 3, 4 times 4, and so on, all the way up to 4 times 12, which is 48, right? So that's kind of what they want you to print out, all the way up to there. So what you're going to do is you're going to have to loop, and you're probably going to have to loop from 1 to 12. And for each loop, you print out whatever that counter is times 4. So for the first loop, it's going to be 1. You print out 1 times n, then 2 times n, 3 times n, and so on. Again, I'm thinking of for loop. I'm thinking you might want to use range 1, start with 1, and it doesn't include the last one. So if you do range 1 to 12, I'm telling you now that's not going to work. So So you might need to try something else. Again, hints. I'm not trying not to sell the farm, and I'm telling you, it's not that much code that you're going to have to write here. All right, 6.2 factorial. So what do they want you to do here? They want you to do n times n minus 1 times n minus 2, or you can go the other way. You can go 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 all the way up to n. So you're going to need a range. You're probably going to have a range something like 1 to n, maybe plus 1, because remember, it doesn't include the last one. You're going to need that somewhere. And what they want you to do is that each loop, you've seen already things that total things up. They'll do total equals total plus x. And then each loop you keep adding to total. But factorial isn't a total, it's a multiplication. So in this case, you're not going to be doing like times, plus each time. You're going to be doing times each time. So you're going to want to total equals total times whatever. So that's my hint there. And again, I want to stress, guys, just email me. Email me or reach out to me if you have any questions about this. I'm here. That's what I'm here for. I will help. Don't feel like it's cheating. So 6.3, it's called squared. So folks have a little trouble with this one because they're not sure exactly what to do. So all this one is, again, they provide you with a value of n, and you have to do the sum of each value of n squared from 0 up to n. So what do they mean? So if n was 4, they would want 0 times 0 plus 1 times 1 plus 2 times 2 plus 3 times 3 and plus 4 times 4. Oh, sorry. That is a 0. I did a capital 0. So what do they do? So each loop, it's just like before. It's just like the total ones before where you're adding up each time. But this time, each time through the loop, you're going to be adding whatever that value is squared. So times itself all the way up to, and you stop when n is, when your counter is the same as n. So that's my hint there. Again, this is not very much code, but here's a little difference. On this one, they want you to print out the final answer. They don't want you to print each time, okay? So make sure you pay attention to what they want. And also the first time you run it, you'll probably get a really good idea of what they're looking for. All right, 6.4. X to the y. So there's a way that you can do this, and this is a lot like some of the other stuff where if you do x to the power of y, that means it's x times x times x times x. How many times? Y times. So you can do what you kind of did back with the factorial, where you're multiplying each time, but you could use range 0 to y. Okay. Gonna need this. Another way that everybody does this is there is actually an operation in Python that does squared stuff, or not squared, but powers, and use two multiplication symbols next to each other. So whichever one you do, this is I admit, kind of the easiest way, and it's kind of the quick way, but what they're looking for is a loop where you do x times x times x times x, but however you solve it, solve it. All right, this is the hard one. this gets everybody. Fibonacci sequence. So Fibonacci sequence is interesting because what it is they need basically you start out with, this is a little off, but they start out with 0 and then 1. And then the next one is the previous two added together. So what it is, it's 0 plus 1, which is 1. That's the Fibonacci sequence. And then the next one is 1 plus 1, because I'm adding this one and this one to get 2. Then it's 1 plus 2, which is 3. And then it's 2 plus 3, which is 5. And then 3 plus 5, which is 8. So I hope you see the pattern. It goes on forever, but that's generally the way it works. So 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 3 is 5, 3 plus 5 is 8. Each time is the previous 2 added together. So they want you to print each one. They want you to print n Fibonacci numbers. So if they pass in n equals, let's say 2, they want, and this is weird, they want you to print out 0, they want you to print out 1, and then they want you to print out 1. If the Fibonacci was 5, you print out 0, you print out, and this is where it starts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. So they want you to print out basically 6 numbers if you include the 0. Does that make sense? So what you're going to have to do, and this is where it gets really tricky, you're going to have to keep track of like 3 numbers. You're probably going to have to keep track of like the next one. You're going to have to keep track of the current one, maybe. And then you're going to have to keep track of what the Fibonacci is. So before we even start the loop, and then we loop. So we do 4, who knows. So the idea is the current Fibonacci is 0, the one we're on is 0, and the next one's going to be 1. And then what you're going to have to do is kind of change these 3 variables somehow. Okay, the Fibonacci is probably these 2 added together, right? And then you'll have to update these each for loop. So I'm just going to get you started there. That's all I'm going to give you. But if you're really having trouble with this, give it a shot. And I want to tell you that part of this programming and part of these challenges is you got to sweat through it. Okay, and I hate to do this to you guys. I just want to give you all the answers. But half of programming is thinking and learning and figuring out how to solve these problems. Because what's going to happen is when you get into the real world, somebody's not going to tell you, do this thing that you've done before. They're going to tell you in the real world, do this thing you've never done before. And I'll admit, a lot of it you can just Google and find out, but sometimes there's that thing you have to do that nobody's done before. And that happens a lot. I've done it in my job too. I use Python every day. I use it every day to do those quick things that I need to figure out. So that's that. I think that's the last one. I'm going to double check. Yeah, all done. So yeah, they just tell you a couple more things at the end. So that's it. I hope it helps. I hope this video wasn't too boring. And just let me know. Please let me know if this helps, because I take time out of my day to do it. And so if it's not helping you guys, then I won't worry about it. So anyway, thank you all very much. And again, email me, post things to general questions, except again, please don't post code. And that's all. Thank you very much for listening.